Right then, welcome aboard. You've made it back to another episode of The Funny Historian for Sleep, where the facts are true, the delivery's slow, and the snoring usually starts just before the best bit. I'm Corporal Kip, Royal Marine Commando, part-time historian, and now apparently your guide through the stars. Tonight, we're heading into space. Not literally, no need for helmets or dehydrated lasagna. Just you, me, and a soft journey through the long, bizarre, occasionally genius, often ridiculous history of how humans looked up and said, let's go there. Bit ambitious, really, but that's what makes it funny. So, tuck yourself in, pull that blanket up like it's a mission-critical procedure, and let's begin with the oldest space technology of them all, the human neck. Yep, because the first space observers didn't need telescopes or rockets. They just needed to tilt their heads. People have been staring at the sky and making wild guesses since the very first bloke tripped over a log and looked up in frustration. Somewhere around 3000 BC, the Babylonians were already drawing star maps, tracking the planets, and assigning them personalities. Mars? Angry. Venus? Flirty. Jupiter? Massive. Probably loud at dinner. They had entire calendars based on the stars, which is impressive when you consider most people today can't even read a bus timetable. Meanwhile, the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids in alignment with the stars, and they didn't even have laser levels, just ropes, sweat, and a suspiciously accurate understanding of Orion's belt. I can barely line up a picture frame. They lined up tombs with the cosmos. Now, if you skip westward a bit, you find the Greeks. The Greeks, the philosophers, the deep thinkers, the lads in sandals who argued about everything. Aristotle reckoned the Earth was the centre of the universe. Classic main character syndrome. Pythagoras said the heavens made music, even though you can't hear a thing in space. And then there was Eratosthenes, who actually worked out the Earth's circumference using shadows and a stick. A stick. And here I am struggling with IKEA instructions. Centuries later, a bloke named Copernicus turned the whole thing upside down, or rather inside out, by suggesting that maybe, just maybe, the Earth wasn't the centre of everything. Scandalous. Of course, that went down like a lead space balloon with the church. Galileo later backed him up using a telescope, got shouted at for his trouble, and spent a decent chunk of his life under house arrest for the crime of being observant. Fast forward again, because I know you're drifting, and we reach the age of rockets. Now, rockets didn't start with space travel, no. They started with people strapping gunpowder to sticks and yelling, let's see what happens. The Chinese had the first go at this. Fire arrows in the 13th century. Technically weapons, but let's be honest, also brilliant party tricks. By the 20th century, humanity had upgraded. We had fuel, we had engines, and we had an overwhelming urge to see which government could fling metal the furthest. Thus began the space race. The Cold War was already simmering like a dodgy stew, and both the Americans and Soviets were itching to prove they had the best toys. Instead of launching insults, they launched rockets, and before they trusted them with people, they tested them on everything else: dogs, monkeys, tortoises, even jellyfish. The Soviets sent up a dog named Laika, a street dog, picked for her ability to sit still and not panic. They put her in a tin can, gave her a spacesuit, and off she went. She became the first living creature to orbit the Earth. Did she enjoy it? No. Did she survive? Also no. But did she become a legend with a postage stamp? Absolutely. Then came Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space. He orbited the Earth, smiled a lot, and when he came back, he was so famous he couldn't go anywhere without people asking, "What's space like?" He probably started lying just to make it interesting. The Americans, not to be outdone, went all in. Trained a bunch of test pilots, locked them in cramped capsules, and started aiming for the moon. Because, Earth was getting a bit dull. In 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon and delivered that famous line, "One small step for man." Buzz Aldrin stepped down next. The third bloke, Michael Collins. He stayed in orbit, circling above in the command module like a designated driver in space. Nobody remembers him, but without him, Neil and Buzz would still be up there looking for a ride home. After that, humanity relaxed a bit. We'd done it. We'd landed on a dusty old rock, bounced around, collected some bits, and planted a flag. Then we went back to sending robots. Much cheaper, and robots don't need sandwiches. Over time, we launched satellites, thousands of them. We built space stations, observed distant galaxies, and pointed very large telescopes at stars so far away they probably don't even exist anymore. And all of it, started with a bloke looking up and wondering what those twinkly dots were doing. Now look at us, still wondering, just with better cameras. And you, lying there all warm and cosy. You're floating through that same space right now. Technically, the Earth's spinning and the universe is just quietly buzzing away while your pillow does all the hard work. So don't worry about the science, or the physics, or what the quasar does at 3 in the morning. Just close your eyes and let space carry you off. It's cold up there, but in here, you're safe, you're warm, and you've got the best view in the galaxy, the inside of your eyelids. We built Voyager, launched it in 1977. Tiny spacecraft, not much bigger than a mini metro, stuffed with sensors and a golden record. Yes, a record, in case aliens fancied a listen. What did we put on it? A bit of Bach, some greetings in 55 languages, and the sound of a baby crying, which says a lot, really. Hello, aliens. Here's some classical music and a reminder that humans are loud and sticky. Voyager's still going, by the way. It's left the solar system now, sailing into the dark like a confused pensioner looking for a post office that shut down in the 80s. And if anyone ever finds it, well, I hope they like jazz. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we built the International Space Station, a flying flat share where astronauts from all over the world come together to float about, grow lettuce, and take photos of Australia. It's basically student halls, but with more wires and fewer kebabs. And let's not forget the moon. Once we'd landed on it a few times and realised it was mostly rocks and disappointment, we stopped going. But now, thanks to billionaires with rocket-shaped hobbies, we're planning to go back. There's a new space race, but this time, it's less Cold War and more my spaceship's shinier than yours. You've got companies building reusable rockets, spacecraft that land themselves, and satellites that can deliver next-day shipping from orbit. Brilliant. Imagine ordering Yorkshire tea and having it dropped by drone from the upper atmosphere. Now that's progress. Still, for all our modern marvels, the universe hasn't changed. It's still enormous, mysterious, and full of things with names that sound like they were made up by a tired wizard. Black holes, for instance. Terrifying name, terrifying concept. It's a place in space where gravity's so strong, not even light can escape. Imagine dropping your car keys down one. You'd never get them back. Not even with one of those extendable magnet sticks. Then there's dark matter. Scientists say it makes up most of the universe, but they have no idea what it is. It's like that drawer in your kitchen, full of stuff. Nobody knows why it's there. But if you throw it out, the whole house falls apart. And don't even get me started on quasars. They're these wildly energetic bits of space that beam light across billions of light years. Essentially, cosmic lighthouses shouting, "Look at me!" while everyone else in the galaxy tries to get some Kip. Which, funnily enough, is what we're here to do. This isn't school. You're not being tested. I'm not going to suddenly shout pop quiz and make you list all the moons of Saturn. No, your job is to listen, vaguely, maybe smile once or twice, and then quietly drift off like a lost sock in zero gravity. Because space, for all its explosions and black holes and terrifying vacuum silence, is actually quite peaceful. Imagine lying in your sleeping bag, velcroed to the wall of a space station, the Earth slowly spinning beneath you, your only worry being that someone's hidden the last chocolate pudding in the emergency food kit. That's what this is. A little bedtime orbit around the silliest and most spectacular parts of the cosmos. No pressure, no big thoughts, just gentle floaty facts, like the fact that Saturn's rings are made mostly of ice and dust. Beautiful, from a distance. Up close, bit like a massive frozen car crash in slow motion, or that there's a planet made entirely of diamonds. Yep, a whole planet. Sparkly, solid carbon. Worth a fortune, if you can survive the 4,000-degree surface and the crushing gravity. Perfect spot for a romantic getaway if you're dating a lava-resistant lizard. And then there's the sound of space, which is nothing. Because space doesn't have air, which means sound can't travel. It's silent, totally. Which makes it the perfect place to listen to this nonsense while you fall asleep. See? Even space agrees. Bedtime stories are universal. Somewhere out there, a star is dying. Another is being born. A comet is hurling itself through the void, like it's late for a meeting. And here you are, safely wrapped up, horizontal, one sock mysteriously gone, and your face half buried in a pillow. You're doing space right. You're relaxing. Because the most important journey through the universe isn't measured in light years or parsecs. It's that final gentle tumble from awake to asleep. You've already left Earth, drifting now through layers of thought into dreams. And if your dreams take you to the moon or Mars or some mad disco on a planet full of dancing hedgehogs, well, that's space for you. It's weird. It's wonderful. And it's exactly where your imagination belongs right now. Keep drifting. You're weightless now, floating quietly. The engine's off. The world's behind you. And ahead, nothing but calm. Now then, don't be alarmed if you feel a bit heavier. That's just gravity reminding you it exists. A curious thing, gravity. It's what keeps your tea in the cup, your bum in bed, and the moon politely circling us like an over-enthusiastic dog that won't sit down. Sir Isaac Newton, bless him, gave us the theory of gravity after being smacked in the head by an apple, or so the story goes. Personally, I think someone threw it at him and blamed nature. Either way, it led to the realization that everything's pulling on everything else all the time. Planets pull moons. Moons pull tides. You pull your duvet over your chin like a sleepy astronaut refusing to go on watch. And speaking of moons, let's talk about ours. The moon, Earth's loyal, cratered sidekick. We've been howling at it, worshipping it, and writing terrible poetry about it for thousands of years. It's responsible for tides, romantic evenings, and at least 73% of bad werewolf films. You've probably stared at it and wondered, why does it look like a face? Well, those dark patches are ancient lava plains, not eyes and a cheeky grin, though I'd argue it does have a bit of a smug look. Then there are the eclipses, moments when the moon strolls in front of the sun like it owns the place. Bit dramatic, really. Imagine being so bold you block out a star just to get noticed. But as far as moons go, ours is a beauty, and we've only scratched the surface, literally. The Apollo missions brought back a few rocks and some excellent stories, like the time an astronaut smuggled a golf club and hit a ball on the moon. Best part? It's still going. Now there are moons elsewhere too. Jupiter alone has over 90 of them. One's covered in ice and might have an ocean underneath. Scientists think there could be life there. Aliens? Maybe. Probably just soggy bacteria. But who knows? Maybe there's a little moon-dwelling shrimp that knows all the secrets of the universe. That's the thing about space. It's massive, mostly empty, and completely full of questions. Take the Milky Way. Sounds like a chocolate bar. It's actually the name of our galaxy, a spiral-shaped smudge full of stars, dust, gas, and the occasional confused satellite. It's home to our sun, which is just an average star. Not too big, not too small. A proper middle management star. Keeps things ticking over, doesn't draw too much attention. But even the sun will die one day. Don't worry, not soon. We've got about 5 billion years before it goes all dramatic and turns into a red giant, swallowing Mercury and Venus, and possibly giving Earth a warm goodbye hug. And then, poof, it'll shrink into a white dwarf, a glowing ember in the dark. Still warm, still glowing, still better at holding it together than most of us after 2 pints and a curry. Now, beyond our solar system lies, well, more solar systems. Hundreds of billions of them. We used to think planets were rare. Now we know they're everywhere. The universe is practically tripping over them. Some are gas giants, some are rocky, some are the wrong temperature for anything but toast. But then there are the Goldilocks planets. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. And they're the ones we think might have life. Now let's be honest. If we do find aliens, they're probably not green blokes with laser guns. They're more likely to be microbes. Or if we're lucky, something that blinks slowly and says blorb before oozing away behind a rock. But that's enough excitement for now. Let's take a deep breath. Let the mind float a little further out. We're past the stars, you know. Out where the galaxies become specks, where light itself takes billions of years to travel from one place to another. And even here, it's quiet. The kind of quiet that reminds you how small we are, but not in a sad way, in a comforting way. You don't have to be big. You don't have to solve every mystery. You just have to be here. Still. Calm. Listening? Because while the universe whirls and spins and stretches out like an elastic band made of fireflies, you're doing the most important thing of all. Resting. Let your thoughts drift past like satellites. Let your breath follow the rhythm of distant starlight. And if your mind wanders into a dream about floating through a nebula wearing pajamas and riding a spacefaring corgi, well, that's completely normal here. This is your space, your moment, and you're doing it right. Now, as you settle deeper, I'll keep talking, because that's my job. You rest. I'll ramble, Fair trade, yeah? Now, while you're curled up in your blanket like a tactical burrito, let's talk about a cosmic trickster. Time. Oh yes, time in space gets weird. Einstein figured out that the faster you move, the slower time goes. Which means, if you went whizzing around the galaxy at nearly the speed of light, you'd age slower than everyone back on Earth. So, technically, if you launched off on a space trip and came back in 10 years, you might return to find everyone else older, the shops replaced by vending machines, and someone's renamed Birmingham to New Birmingham for no good reason. And black holes, those are the universe's time-warping vacuum cleaners. Get too close, and not only do you stretch like a spaghetti noodle, but time itself slows down like a Friday afternoon at work. There's even something called the event horizon, which is just a fancy way of saying the point of no return. You cross that, you're not coming back. Bit like agreeing to one last pint with the lads after midnight. It always sounds fun until you wake up missing a shoe and your dignity. But don't panic. We're nowhere near a black hole. In fact, the closest one's about 1,500 light-years away, which is about as relevant to you tonight as a traffic jam in Neptune's rings. Now, some clever humans decided to start naming things in space. Because of course they did. They looked at burning gas clouds the size of entire solar systems and called them things like the Horsehead Nebula, the Crab Nebula, the Pillars of Creation, and, wait for it, the Boomerang Nebula, because it's the coldest known place in the universe, colder than your ex's texts, colder than a penguin's toenails. It's so cold, it makes your freezer look like a sauna. Then there's the Great Attractor. What is it? Nobody knows. It's a mysterious region in space pulling entire galaxies toward it, but no one can see what's actually there. Could be a massive cluster of dark matter. Could be a celestial cheese platter. Science is unsure. Now, zooming back a bit closer to home, we've launched telescopes into space, like Hubble and now James Webb. These aren't your granddad's binoculars. They're orbiting observatories with mirrors so precise they can spot the heat signature of a birthday candle on the moon. Hubble showed us galaxies colliding like drunks in a car park. James Webb? It's showing us the early universe, like really early. Like the universe before it had coffee, early. And still, with all that tech, we haven't seen aliens yet, or have we? Because here's a fun thought. If aliens were watching us, they'd be seeing Earth in the past. Light takes time to travel, right? So if they're 65 million light years away, they're currently watching dinosaurs fighting over snacks. Somewhere out there, an alien telly's showing a T-Rex trying to pick up a mango with its tiny arms, and they probably think that's still going on. Now, space isn't all majestic silence and stellar beauty. No, there are dangers too. Cosmic hazards that sound like they were invented by a sleep-deprived sci-fi writer. Solar flares, big tantrums thrown by the sun, hurling charged particles across space faster than a toddler flinging mashed potatoes. Gamma-ray bursts, the brightest explosion since you dropped that curry in the barracks. Micrometeoroids, tiny bits of space debris travelling at speeds that could turn your spaceship window into modern art. And yet, in all that chaos, astronauts go up there anyway. Floating in silence, working together, fixing space toilets, taking photos, doing science in socks. Because apparently, socks grip better in zero gravity. So if you ever fancy being an astronaut, bring good socks. Now, by this point, you might be floating somewhere between sleep and dream. And if you're still awake, that's all right. There's no rush, no countdown, no launch pad, just this voice, this warmth, this journey. You're somewhere between Jupiter and dreamland now. Sails down, engines off, pillow secure. Out here, it doesn't matter how far the stars are. What matters is that you're resting, healing, drifting. And tomorrow, you'll return to Earth a little lighter. Not because of zero gravity, but because you let your mind float for a while. Right, I'll hush for now. Not fully mind, you know me. Corporal Kip can't resist the odd whisper. So I'll keep the soft chatter going, just beneath your dreams, like static on the radio of the universe. You're not alone, you're adrift, you're asleep, and absolutely smashing it. Aye, let's keep gliding. Just you, me, the stars, and the occasional cosmic giggle. We're deep into the sleepy part of the journey now, the part where time feels stretchy, and you're not sure if you're still awake or already halfway to dreaming about zero-gravity toast. You know, there's something oddly comforting about the sheer size of space. Billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, each with who knows how many planets. And here we are, tiny little beans in blankets, tucked up and listening to a Royal Marine tell bedtime stories about supernovas. Supernovas, by the way, are stars that go out with a bang, not a quiet flicker like a birthday candle. No, they explode like they've just read the electricity bill and had enough. Some of them collapse into neutron stars, which are so dense, a teaspoon of one would weigh more than Mount Everest. Try stirring your brew with that, eh? Others become black holes, which we've covered. Terrifying, but fascinating. A bit like Marmite or tax inspectors. Now, not everything in space is so dramatic. There are also rogue planets. Planets that got booted out of their solar systems and now drift through space, homeless, moody, and probably listening to sad playlists on their interstellar Spotify accounts. Imagine that. A whole planet, just floating endlessly, minding its own business. Probably thinking, I never liked my star anyway. Too hot. Too bossy. But let's not get lost in the melancholy. Let's talk about something cheerier, like constellations. Back in the day, before Netflix and electricity, people looked up at the sky and played dot to dot with the stars. They saw bears, warriors, scorpions, twins, and even a flying horse, all from a few bright spots in the sky. Now, you might look at those same stars and think, that doesn't look like a bear, that looks like someone dropped glitter in a puddle. But it's all about imagination. You've got Orion, the mighty hunter, sword at his side. Ursa Major, the big bear, though honestly, looks more like a lad who's had one too many pies. And Cassiopeia, a queen on her throne, probably judging everyone else's constellations. And then there's your own constellation tonight. You, in your bed, arranged just so, in the ancient pattern of the dozing human. A truly majestic figure, usually found face down, drooling on the pillow. Now, if you were out in space right now, you'd see Earth as a pale blue dot. That's not poetic exaggeration. It's genuinely what it looks like. Carl Sagan, clever bloke, said it best. He looked at that dot and reminded us, everything we've ever known is on that speck. All the joy, all the heartbreak, all the cups of tea and dodgy haircut decisions. It makes you think. But not too much. This is a sleep story, not a philosophy lecture. Still, the point is, when you zoom out far enough, all the noise and stress goes quiet. The worries shrink, the pressure lifts, and you can just be. That's the gift of space, really. Perspective. And an excuse to lie still for a bit and let your brain take a wander. Now, before you do drift off completely, and you're close, I can tell, here's a fun fact to send you over the edge. There's a planet out there, HD 189733b, where it rains glass sideways. Yeah, glass, sideways. That's one weather report I'd skip. Today's forecast, shards, bring a helmet. And another, there's a giant cloud of alcohol floating in space. True story, it's called Sagittarius B2, and it's basically a space pub the size of a solar system. Though it's not exactly ready for happy hour, it's full of methanol and other chemicals that would melt your eyebrows. Still, it's comforting to know the universe knows how to party. Now then, you're properly floating now, somewhere between a snore and a stargaze. There's no need to keep up, no test at the end. You're allowed to forget everything I've said. In fact, I encourage it. Because your mission right now is simple. Rest. Let your mind turn to static. Let your limbs sink like lead. Let the words blur into background. You're orbiting sleep itself, wrapped in gravity, held by nothing and everything. The stars can wait. The galaxies will still be there tomorrow. The aliens? They're probably asleep too. Now, as you drift even deeper, floating softly in your thoughts like a marshmallow in zero-G hot chocolate, let's meander a bit further into the quieter corners of the cosmos. You know what's funny? For all our high-tech probes and space telescopes, one of the biggest questions we've still got is, are we alone? Now, some scientists reckon there's life out there. Statistically, there must be. But we've yet to find anything concrete. Maybe aliens are out there watching us, thinking, best not say hello yet. They just invented pineapple on pizza and still argue about it. Or maybe they did visit, took one look at 1980s fashion and thought, nope, there's a whole thing called the Fermi paradox. Fancy name for, if there's so many planets, where the heck is everyone? Some say aliens are hiding, some say they're too far. Others reckon we're just the weird kid at the back of the galactic classroom that nobody wants to talk to. But who needs aliens when humans have done enough weird stuff on their own? We launched rubber chickens into space. True story. One had a radiation sensor. Others? Just chicken tourism, I guess. We've sent Lego astronauts into orbit. We've sent pizza into the stratosphere. Honestly, if aliens are watching, they're probably just confused. This species invented rockets, then used them to launch snacks. Now, speaking of snacks, did you know that your sense of taste changes in space? Yeah. Astronauts often say food tastes bland. Why? Because without gravity, all your bodily fluids start floating around differently, and your nose gets stuffy. So space food is like eating with a cold, hence why hot sauce becomes liquid gold up there. Which begs the question, how long before Yorkshire tea makes a zero-gravity blend? Imagine Corporal Kip floating through a space station, steaming mug velcroed to the table, Teddy peeking out the rucksack, sipping tea while reading a manual titled, How Not to Eject Yourself by Mistake. Now, somewhere beyond all that drifting and sipping, there's a place called the Kuiper Belt. It's like the junk drawer of the solar system. Bits of rock, ice, and leftovers from when the solar system was still under construction. It's where Pluto lives now, bless it. Demoted from planet to dwarf planet. Still salty about it, I reckon. Poor Pluto. Imagine working hard your whole existence, only to be told, actually, you're not really a planet. You're more like a cosmic side dish. But Pluto's not alone. There are loads of dwarf planets. Eris, Haumea, Make. That last one sounds like a posh artisan bakery. And beyond even those, there's the Oort cloud, a theoretical cloud of icy bodies surrounding the solar system like a giant fluffy halo. We haven't seen it directly, but scientists are convinced it's there. Bit like socks in a washing machine. Gone, but never really gone. It's also believed to be the source of long-period comets. You know, the ones that turn up once every few hundred years and everyone panics. Comets, by the way, are basically dirty snowballs. Giant lumpy frozen icebergs with tails of gas and dust that sparkle across the sky like Mother Nature just sneezed glitter. Some ancient cultures thought comets were omens. Others thought they were dragons. Nowadays, we just tweet blurry photos and argue about how to pronounce their names. Now, while we're up this far, floating past Oort clouds and lumpy space snowballs, let's pause and admire something deeply humbling. Silence. Out here. There's no air, no wind, no footsteps. Just pure uninterrupted quiet. Not the eerie sort of quiet, though. Not the someone's behind you with a torch kind. No. This is comforting quiet. The kind that seeps into your bones and reminds you that you're allowed to switch off. Everything you've done today, the stress, the noise, the nonsense, all of it can wait. The stars don't rush. The planets don't stress. And neither should you. In fact, if the universe had a motto, it'd probably be, take your time. Drift if needed. Now, as your breathing slows, your limbs sink even deeper into the mattress, and your thoughts begin to meander like lazy meteors. You may wonder, where are we heading? And the answer is, nowhere in particular. There's no destination tonight, no mission, no target. Just you, floating calmly, guided gently through the absurdly beautiful mess of space by a Royal Marine who once mistook a star chart for a pub menu. Alpha Centauri sounds like a lager. So just keep drifting. Let the sound of my voice become part of the silence. Let the story melt into dream. And if you're still with me, if your mind hasn't wandered off to build sandcastles on Mars, don't worry. I'll keep going. There's plenty more nonsense in this galaxy, and we've barely scratched the Milky Way. So there we are, drifting past glittery dust trails and sleepy planets, with Corporal Kip quietly babbling away like the world's most relaxed tour guide in a galaxy-wide museum. And speaking of museums, imagine one in space. A floating collection of cosmic oddities. The exhibit labels would be brilliant. Comet tail, don't touch, may contain 4-billion-year-old sneezes. Moon rock, slightly cranky after being ignored for decades. The space toilet, approach with caution. Ah yes, the space toilet. One of humanity's greatest inventions, and also a source of deep fear for astronauts. Without gravity, everything becomes a negotiation, especially the plumbing. NASA reportedly spent millions figuring it out. Russian cosmonauts used a glorified bin and said, good enough. 2 nations, same problem. One chose a PowerPoint presentation, the other chose grit. But that's the thing about space. It equalizes everyone. Out here, you don't need a title. You don't need to be important. You don't even need to wear trousers, really. Just float, breathe, listen, and sip imaginary tea from a zero-gravity mug. And since we're sipping that tea, let's glide gently into another marvel. Gravity itself. Now, most people think gravity is a force pulling things down. And it is. Sort of. But according to Einstein, who had hair like he'd just wrestled a space ferret, Gravity isn't a pull. It's actually a curve, a bending of space and time caused by mass. Imagine putting a bowling ball on a trampoline. The heavier it is, the more it sinks in. Now roll a marble nearby. It'll spiral toward the bowling ball, not because it's being pulled, but because it's rolling along the curved surface. That's gravity, the universe, playing marbles on a giant stretchy bedsheet. Mad, innit? And this bending of space means time slows down near heavy things, like black holes, or very determined grandmothers. Which means if you hung out near a black hole, from a safe distance, let's not be daft, you'd actually experience time more slowly than someone chilling on Earth. So, while you're out there nibbling on space biscuits, your mate back home's aged a year, grown a beard, and adopted 2 cats. You come back confused. They've changed. You haven't. Welcome to Time Dilation, brought to you by the weirdest physics lesson ever whispered at bedtime. Now, a few light years over, let's check in on a weird phenomenon called dark matter. It's invisible. It doesn't emit light. We can't touch it, see it, or photograph it. And yet it makes up most of the universe. Scientists call it dark because, frankly, they haven't got a clue what it is. Imagine a ghost with a gym membership. You can't see it, but you know it's there because it's holding everything together. Galaxies spin faster than they should. Something must be helping. Enter dark matter. And just when you thought that was enough mystery, along comes dark energy, which, despite sounding like something from an evil wizard's spellbook, is even more mysterious. It's causing the universe to expand faster and faster, like it's had too many espressos and can't sit still. So we've got regular matter, you, me, this pillow, dark matter, the invisible glue, and dark energy, the over-caffeinated mystery fuel. In short, 95% of the universe is stuff we don't really understand. But do we panic? Nope. We keep floating, keep wondering, keep sipping Yorkshire tea while listening to bedtime stories told by a Royal Marine in an imaginary spacesuit. Now, if you've made it this far, you're probably about 75% asleep and 25% curious about what's next. Perfect balance. Because now we arrive at one of my favourite things in space. Nebulae. Sounds like a posh dessert, doesn't it? Excuse me, waiter. I'll have the strawberry nebula with a side of whipped Saturn rings. But no, a nebula is a giant cloud of dust and gas, often left behind after a star explodes. Some are nurseries, where new stars are born. Others are remnants, colourful scars of cosmic drama. And the colours, oh mate, hues of pink, blue, gold and violet. They'd make an oil painting blush. The Eagle Nebula, home to the pillars of creation, looks like smoke rising in space, but it's actually giant towers of gas and dust, taller than whole solar systems. It's poetic, really. A place where stars are born, and someday, maybe even stories. Maybe someone's drifting out there now, telling their own bedtime tales about us. On a tiny blue dot, there were beings who made fire, sang songs, and named the stars. And you? You're part of that story, the great drifting human tale, one heartbeat among billions, floating gently tonight in the arms of the universe. And as your eyelids sink and your breath grows heavier than Saturn's rings, remember, there's no destination, no need to do. Just be. Sleep, wanderer. Sleep well. Now, by this point, you're practically floating inside your own duvet nebula, limbs heavy as moon rocks, eyelids dropping like solar panels at sunset. And yet, we keep going, quietly, curiously, deeper into the vast, hilarious, and weird world of the universe. Let's talk about Mars, shall we? Ah, Mars, the cosmic middle child of the solar system. Not quite small and quirky like Mercury, not big and flashy like Jupiter. Just Mars. Red. Dusty. Trying its best. Once upon a time, Mars had rivers, lakes, maybe even oceans. These days, it's more like a massive dry biscuit floating in space. Crumbling, cold, and full of regrets. We've sent dozens of missions to Mars. Landers, rovers, even a drone that flaps about like a noisy insect. And you know what they found? Dust. Rocks. More dust. And evidence that Mars might have once had all the ingredients for life, but forgot to put them in the oven. Still, humans are obsessed with the place. There are plans to send people there in the next couple of decades. And I have questions. How will they make tea? Where will they hang their laundry? Will they find alien fossils? Or just an old crisp packet from a 1970s probe? And more importantly, how are they going to deal with Martian toilets? We'll circle back to that. Best not picture it just before you sleep. Now, just beyond Mars lies the asteroid belt. It's not quite the bumper car bonanza Hollywood makes it out to be. More like lonely space gravel spread out across millions of miles. Still, the asteroids themselves are fascinating. Some are solid metal. Some are rubble piles held together by nothing more than wishful thinking. And one of them, Ceres, is actually big enough to be a dwarf planet. We even landed a probe called OSIRIS-REx on one of these floating space rocks, Bennu, to scoop up a bit of dust and bring it home. That's like throwing a dart at a moving target from across the pub while riding a unicycle. Blindfolded. But we did it. Because humans, for all our flaws, are really good at launching things into space, losing signal for 3 years, and then somehow saying, yeah, we stuck the landing. And while we're celebrating odd achievements, let's raise a cup, of Yorkshire tea, of course, to Voyager 1. Launched in 1977. Still going. Still sending signals. Still holding on to hope that someone, somewhere, might pick up the golden record it's carrying. A collection of Earth sounds, greetings and music, just in case an alien fancies a mixtape. What's on it? Whale song. Chuck Berry. A baby crying. A message from the UN, and instructions for how to build a record player out of stardust and optimism. Imagine the aliens finally decoding it after 1,000 years, only to hear hello from the children of planet Earth, and a sneeze. Now, floating past the asteroid belt, we come to the big lads, the gas giants, Jupiter, the solar system's bouncer. So massive, it could fit 1,300 Earths inside it. It's got a giant red spot, which is actually a storm that's been raging for centuries. Corporal Kip reckons it's the universe's version of someone who never learned to let things go. Then there's Saturn, the flashy one. Rings made of ice, dust, and frozen moon crumbs. Looks like it's ready for a galactic wedding, or a very fancy tea party. We even sent a probe called Cassini there, spent years taking stunning pictures, diving between the rings, and eventually diving straight into Saturn itself like a mic drop. Next up, Uranus. Yes. Let's get the Snickers out of the way. Scientists try to pronounce it Uranus these days to avoid classroom-level giggles. But honestly, with a name like that, what did they expect? Still, it's a beautiful place, a pale blue orb tilted so far on its side, it practically rolls around the sun. Bit like a tipsy uncle at a wedding. And last in line, Neptune, dark, windy, mysterious. It's got storms that move faster than sound, and weather that would ruin your hairdo in seconds. It's far, cold, and utterly majestic. And beyond Neptune, more space, always more space. But here's the funny bit. Even with all these wild planets and moons and orbiting oddballs, the solar system is basically empty. Vast stretches of nothing. And yet, we find ways to fill it with meaning. A moon crater becomes a tribute. A rock becomes a mission. A bit of silence becomes peace. Now as you breathe softer, heavier, slower, like the spin of a lazy planet, let yourself settle into that quiet. You don't have to memorize any of this. You're not being quizzed. There are no exams at the edge of the universe. You're just here, with a teddy in a backpack, a mug of imaginary tea, and a Royal Marine in a spacesuit casually explaining orbital mechanics. Because why not? Sleep isn't a place you force yourself to go. It's a destination you drift toward. So just float, just listen. And when you're ready, when the silence pulls you gently under, go with it. We'll still be here, among the stars, telling stories, dreaming strange dreams, snoring softly across the rings of Saturn. You know what's truly bonkers? Moons. We've got so many of them. The Earth's moon, big, round, pale, reliable as ever. Sometimes smugly full, sometimes shy and crescent-shaped. Sometimes lurking behind clouds like it's planning something. But Earth only has one. Jupiter has at least 95 confirmed moons. Saturn? Over 140. At some point you've got to wonder if these planets are just showing off. Look at me, I've got a full moon orchestra. Some moons are icy, some are volcanic, some might even have oceans beneath their crusts. Take Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. It's covered in a thick layer of ice, but beneath that, scientists believe there's a salty liquid ocean, miles deep, dark, still, and maybe, just maybe, full of weird space jellyfish planning their own intergalactic band. Then there's Titan, Saturn's biggest moon. It's got lakes, rivers and rain. But not of water, oh no, of liquid methane. Basically, it's raining farts. Yet, oddly, it's beautiful. Orange haze, reflective lakes, soft hills. Bit like a really strange version of Scotland in winter. And on Mars, there are two teeny-tiny moons, Phobos and Deimos. They look like misshapen potatoes that got into a fight. But they zoom around Mars like clockwork. Phobos, in particular, orbits so fast it rises and sets twice a day. So if you lived on Mars, you'd get double moons, double sunsets, double excuses to go, ooh, and ah. And that's the thing about space. No matter where you look, up, down, left, diagonal, spinny direction, there's something odd, ancient, and kind of hilarious just floating around. Even stars aren't as straightforward as you might think. Sure, they twinkle, they sparkle, they make for great romance lines and bad tattoos, but they're also enormous thermonuclear furnaces that occasionally explode without warning. Some stars live quietly for billions of years. Others, like supergiants, live fast and die young, going out in blazing glory called a supernova. A supernova is so bright it can outshine an entire galaxy for weeks. And then, after all the fireworks, sometimes what's left behind is a neutron star, a super-dense lump of matter so heavy that a teaspoon of it would weigh more than Mount Everest. Corporal Kip once said it's like if a walnut decided to become a blacksmith. But occasionally, if things get really dramatic, a star collapses completely, creating a black hole. Now, black holes are the universe's version of do not enter signs. They've got gravity so strong that not even light can escape. If you fell in, you'd experience what scientists call spaghettification. You'd stretch like a noodle, sucked toward the centre in a process that sounds more like a cooking technique than a cosmic doom. But don't worry, you're not falling into one now. You're floating beside one, at a very safe, very comfy, very sleepy distance. Picture it, a big black void, surrounded by swirling light, and you, in a thermal onesie, sipping space brew, with your teddy wearing a tiny astronaut helmet, just vibing. And yet, for all the drama and explosions, there's something gentle about space too. The way stars form in nurseries of gas and dust, the way galaxies spiral with elegance, the way light from ancient stars travels billions of years just to twinkle in your window. And galaxies, oh, don't get me started. There are hundreds of billions of them. Spirals, ellipticals, irregulars, like cosmic snowflakes, each one different. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, is shaped like a flattened spiral pancake. And it's huge, so huge that it takes light, which travels faster than your cousin's gossip, over 100,000 years to cross from one end to the other. And floating nearby is the Andromeda Galaxy, a neighbour, a friend, and, in about 4 billion years, a dance partner. Yep, the Milky Way and Andromeda are slowly drifting toward each other. Eventually, they'll collide and merge into a new galaxy. Don't panic, you've got time, plenty of time. Might as well have another nap while you wait. In fact, it's funny how space gives you perspective. Your bad day, that thing you forgot, that awkward moment at the shops. Tiny, microscopic, not even a speck in the endless drift of cosmic dust. And yet, here you are, alive, breathing, curled up in the gentle dark with a story drifting in your ears, held by the universe like a pearl in velvet. Because space isn't cold. Not really. It's quiet, patient, and tonight it's watching over you with stars in its eyes. So sleep, let go. The moons will keep spinning, the stars will keep twinkling, and Corporal Kip will keep talking nonsense to nebulae just in case they're listening. And there we are, Space Cadet, with your head on a pillow and your imagination somewhere between Mars and a mug of Yorkshire tea. If you're still awake, well, you've done better than most astronauts. But I'd wager you're somewhere between deep sleep and dreaming of a telescope with legs. We've wandered across galaxies and gas giants, tiptoed past black holes, waved politely at supernovas, and made very poor jokes about Uranus. Because frankly, we had to. It's tradition. You've heard tales of cosmic collisions, sleepy stars, space toilets, and alien jellyfish who probably played jazz in Europa's underground oceans. All delivered, of course, in the finest bedtime banter from yours truly, Corporal Kip, Royal Marine Commando, space historian, part-time philosopher, and full-time snorer. Now, as this ridiculous rocket ride glides to a halt, let's take a moment to remember just how small we really are. You, lying there, tucked in, warm, breathing slow, with a half-empty cup and a teddy poking out from the backpack of your dreams. And out there, 100 billion stars, a trillion swirling worlds, and the soft silence of the cosmos just waiting. See, that's the funny thing about space. It's full of chaos, collisions, explosions, and wonder. But it's also the quietest place you'll never visit. Not a sound, not a whisper. Just the endless hush of time stretching on. Which, oddly enough, is a lot like sleep. No need to rush, no need to do anything, no medals to win, no kettles to boil, just you. So if you've nodded off, perfect, job done. But if your brain's still whirring like a satellite with a dodgy fuse, Let me remind you again. You're allowed to rest. You've earned it. Whatever battles you fought this week, literal or emotional, whatever chaos you faced, emails you ignored, socks you lost, you've made it to this moment, and this moment is yours. The galaxy can wait. So curl in deeper. Wriggle that blanket just right. Let your breathing slow even further, like a lazy moon doing laps around a sleepy planet. Corporal Kip will stay on watch. Got my brew, got my blanket, got my invisible space beret on sideways. If anything interstellar kicks off, I'll sort it. But chances are, all you'll hear now is the gentle hum of silence, a sound softer than stardust, a calm deeper than Neptune's oceans. And if you find yourself waking later, sometime in the middle of the night, that's all right too. Just close your eyes again. Roll over maybe. Let the quiet of the cosmos tuck you back in. And hey, if you enjoyed this sleepy little ramble through the stars, do us a favour. Give the video a like, tap subscribe, and leave a daft comment like, "My Teddy and I are now astronauts. Still floating. Over and out." Because around here, we're not just building a sleep channel, we're building a crew of sleepy wanderers, gentle jokers, and history lovers with snoring problems. So thank you for being here. Whether you made it 5 minutes or 1 hour, whether you're a new recruit or a seasoned snoozer, you're part of the team. The funny historian for sleep salutes you. Now drift off, soldier. Let the stars watch over you. Let the dreams roll in like fog over a sleepy Martian hill. And remember, even in the vastness of space, you're not alone. You're with the Teddy, with the tea, and with Corporal Kip mumbling stories into the void just loud enough to send you snoring. Good night, sleep tight, and may your dreams be sillier than Saturn's hat collection.